Okay, so we are about a week and a half out from gelding. This is Andy Q. He is a 2-year-old Westphalian, now gelded. Little boy starting on his basic groundwork, and here we're teaching him to lead and lead properly. And by that I mean I want him to stop when I stop without having to fight him or pull on the lead. Here I'm correcting him. I didn't ask him to move forward. And then also asking him to back when I ask him to back. And then when I walk forward, I want him to walk with me and stay with me, walk up with me. And then when I stop, I want him to stop. And that is a leadership position that we take. There, he did well. And again, asking him to back. I don't want to yank on his face. Eventually, I want him to get to the point where as I just move backward, he backs. I don't have to yank on his face at all. And here I'm asking him to yield his shoulder, which he's doing very well. I worked with him last week doing this, just starting out, and he wanted to fight me. He can be still a little bit ornery because he is just freshly gelded, so he still has the testosterone, those hormones in there. Here I'm asking him to move forward, but in doing so, I want him to bend his head inward a little bit and create a bend in his body, and stepping over and crossing over with that inside hind leg there and there, just like that. It's a little hard. He's new at this. And here we're asking for a little bit of dominance and asking him to yield that hind quarter and create a bend in his body. Horses crave and need someone to assume the leadership position because they are herd animals, and if we don't assert ourselves in doing so, then they will just take it and run with it, literally running us over and having ill manners. So it's really important to teach them now at a young age all this groundwork that will translate when we are in the saddle. It's super important to have a good foundation. Here he got stuck, but we're just consistent. I'm consistent in asking him to move forward, and he figured it out. Again, in my training, I like to give these guys the possibility to find the yes answer to. So just encouraging him to move forward, focusing my energy on his hind end, and then there I asked him to whoa, and he did beautifully. He was a good boy. Here I want him to back up. Again, not wanting to yank on his face, just really going into his bubble and him staying out of mine. Because horses are flight animals and have a very strong sense and instinct of self-preservation, they tend to want to flee or bolt or spook at things when alone because they're not sure of us, a predator, asking them to totally relinquish that self-preservation and that instinct of wanting to flee. And because he's a colt, he can have a little bit of a tendency of wanting to fight more, or was, just recently gelded, so he's got those hormones in there. And so they can occasionally throw a little bit of an attitude and challenge you. So we really have to continue to stand our ground, not being abusive or mean in any way, but just being steadfast in our position. Here his bending to the right is a little more difficult, and he acted up a bit there, so I'm pushing him out and away. The same thing that would happen in a herd. He would be pushed out and away for discipline as soon as he misbehaved or did something bad, so to speak. So here he's getting pushed out, and then we just continue with the lunging. And he's done pretty well at learning the commands, how to whistle to come down from his gates. He's picked that up pretty quickly. So it's really important to work on the transitions and the verbal cues. on the ground and get it confirmed. So he comes into each gate and comes down from each gate very smooth and steadfast, and he's comfortable in what he's doing. He's nice and relaxed, and there's a rhythm there. Otherwise, he's not learning and he's not paying attention or focusing on what we're doing. So here you can see that he's nice and relaxed. He's got that ear on me. He's paying attention. So I asked him to come down again, and he did so. He's really picked it up quickly, which I'm really happy with. Here he thinks about challenging me, and I go to correct him, and he wants to pose his position. I had a little bit of an argument, but I make sure that, again, I'm not being mean, but I stand fast in what I'm asking. He finds the yes. And then once he has gone around a few times and comes back to relaxation, is being respectful with his ear on me. Here I ask him to keep in his trot. I want him to continue on and stop when I ask him to, not when he wants to. Here he's got his ear on me, that inside ear, which is good. He's finding a rhythm, which is good. I'm happy with how he's going. And once he's found a nice relaxed position and he's paying attention, then I can ask him to come down to a walk. Here he's dropped his head, licking his lips. Super happy with that. He's nice and relaxed. Waiting to see what I'm going to ask him for next. He still is a little unsure of the training stick, but he's learning. Once he's nice and relaxed, I want to transition into canter, straight from the walk, and he got a little excited there. That's okay, I just want him to come into a nice smooth gait, nice and relaxed. He still isn't very well balanced, but that will come with conditioning after he has built a little bit of muscle and is able to carry himself properly, and as we are teaching him along the way as well. There I asked him with the whistle to come down. He's really picked that up quite quickly. And then just continue on in a walk. And he does that willingly. Here he decided that he had to stop walking in order to poop, but I encourage him to keep walking. He can walk and have a bowel movement at the same time. So here, again, working on that groundwork and those verbal commands, he's still not sure, needs to be reminded of his woe. And I hate to hang on their face, so I'll do some quick pops on the lunge line for him to turn into me, to get him to stop. And here we're just going to work on the same thing in the opposite direction. So I'm going to speed this up to save time. So now that I've gotten the giggles out with lunging and really disengaging his hind end, I want to work on some training with a carrot stick to help him learn boundaries and establish a language and a line of communication between the two of us and create something that we can build on, a good foundation. So here he wants to just walk all over the top of me and choose to move off as he wants to, and I didn't ask him to do that, so I put him back to where he was. And then we're just working on basic touching of the withers, which to colts and in the wild horses, that's where they will bite one another when fighting. So colts are particularly leery of this space. But this is also a space where they show each other affection and praise in the wild. So I want to start here so that I can reverse that thought in his mind of being a point of contention. Whereas you can see here, he doesn't want me to touch him there. And he wants to bite the stick as opposed to just acknowledging it. He is mad that I am addressing him there, the tail swishing and trying to be a little more aggressive. So upon bad behavior, I will just yank on the lead rope, correcting that because he wants to strike and come at me. And he's a big horse. Again, I am asserting my space and my bubble and dominance over him. This is a little bit of an argument. Again, we want to stay steadfast in our position. I'm not letting him win. I'm not taking it off until he stands still. So relieving the pressure of the stick is a reward. So once he stands still and does what I ask, here he's acknowledging it without a fight. That's good. So I relieve the pressure or take it away as a reward. Here I just want to rub it all over his face and let him see that it's not going to hurt him. He doesn't have to be leery of it. Again, the stick is just an extension of my hand. It's not a weapon or a discipline tool. It's a training tool. Here he's still arguing with me, not wanting me to touch him on his wither. I'm just putting it in his space, and you see his ear on it, acknowledging it there. So that was good, without balking or fighting me. So once he acknowledges in the slightest way, good. He's nice and relaxed with his head down, then I relieve the pressure. It's not even touching me, but still he wants to argue, bite at the stick, and fight. So again, I stand in my position. Good. Once he stops shaking and moving around, then I'll relieve the pressure. Good. His head drops. I relieve the pressure of the stick. There, I removed it before he touched it, so that was good. Here he gets mad that I am persistent and he tries to challenge me again, so I make him back up into his space and stay out of mine. Much better. I was touching him there, so he stood still. Again, he tries to step forward into my space, so I immediately correct him and make him go back and start the process over. You can see by his expression he's not very happy with me. But he drops his head and starts to relax, finally submissing. Not loving or enjoying it, but deciding he's not going to win. Again, correcting him when he goes to move forward on his own before I ask. Establishing boundaries with your horse is super important, and it actually creates a healthier relationship and a safer one at that. So what we do on one side, we need to do on the other. He doesn't want me to approach him with the stick on that side either, and continues to dance, but again, I stay steadfast in my position. I'm not going to stop or relieve the pressure until he stands still, which he did there, so I removed the stick. Again with the arguing, trying to bite it. I backed him up there because he kept trying to come into my space, so correcting him. And then once he's put in his place, he decides, okay, it's not so bad. But still wants to move off and away on his own, so I correct that. And then he stands. So then I remove the pressure. And here he's not loving it, but he's not running off or biting at the stick, so I relieve the pressure. He's a good boy. Finally, again on this side, has decided that he will take a submissive stance. Here I'm just kind of desensitizing him with the rope from the stick on the ground, letting him see these things. She kind of looks at there. So here, now that he stood when I was working with the rope on the ground, I want to reverse that thought in his mind that that is a point of contention and let that be, his withers be a point that I'm rewarding him. And he has decided that's not so bad now. Still with the colt brain, wanting to do things when he wants to, so correcting him and putting him back into the position that he was, where we were working prior. He's looking at another horse coming into the barn here. Acknowledging the rope and the stick, so I'm happy with that. It was good. And I take it away. Again, just doing more desensitization with the rope up on the flying up on the air and then tossing it on his back. He doesn't spook at that, which is really nice. So that's good. Letting it fall over his rump. And this all prepares him for long line work. So letting him feel the rope touch him, having it all over his back, he was a good boy. What we do on one side, we need to do on the other, so training both sides of the brain. Again, just letting the rope touch him, throwing it over his back, but not letting him move forward. Tossing it over his back. Again, you'll notice that I won't ever back up when I'm teaching him. When I want him to disengage or to move in a position, I'm not going to back up. I want him to move forward and move him off of me. Backing up then sends a signal that he is more dominant over you. And that's definitely not what we want, especially with a baby this big. So again, we're going to walk I don't have my stick with me, but I'm trying to encourage him to keep up with me and stay right with me here. And then whoa when I whoa, without touching his face. He was a good boy and he did it there. Super important to establish this boundary. You see, I didn't even touch his face. And then I'm asking him to back up here. I did have to put a little pressure on his nose with the rope, but he responded very well. I want him to walk when I walk. I want him to stop when I stop. When I speed up, I want him to speed up with me. I want him to be with me. We should have a partnership. I don't want him to ever feel that he can run over the top of me in any situation. So if he were to spook at something, I want him to feel that he can go to either side of me and not over the top of me. Otherwise, he should find comfort in being with me. And here I'm just working on yielding his shoulder again. And he did a good job on that side. And then what we do on one side, we're going to do on the other. So I want him to yield this shoulder. He's really belligerent on this side. So I really have to put a lot of pressure. And eventually, I don't want to have to touch him at all. If I walk towards him, he should move off of me. He just has a little bit of an issue because he's got testosterone still pumping through him. We're getting there.